A pitching staff has 12 to 13 guys on it, and roughly 2 of them are famous. The other 10 or 11 have extremely specific jobs that most fans couldn't describe if you held a bat to their head, despite watching these jobs get performed 300 times a year. Baseball has quietly built an entire shadow hierarchy of roles, each one with its own unwritten rules, its own pressure profile, and its own very particular flavor of dread. Here is the full roster, ranked roughly from guy whose phone number the manager has to look up to guy who gets a custom walk-up song and a Q rating. Same sport, same mound, same little rubber rectangle 60 feet and 6 inches from home plate, and somehow 11 completely different psychological experiences. Full disclosure before we start. My entire pitching career consisted of 1 season of rec league softball where I was moved off the mound after 4 batters because, and I quote my coach directly, "You're gonna hit somebody's grandmother." I have never thrown a slider. I have, however, watched a great many men throw sliders, and I have opinions. Every team has a pitcher whose entire job is to show up once the game is already a humiliation in progress, down 9 runs in the 7th. The kind of score where the broadcast starts cutting to shots of fans doing the wave out of pure boredom. The mop-up man exists so the team doesn't have to burn an actual useful reliever on a game that's already decided. He is, in the most literal sense, professional baseball's janitorial staff. Nobody is nervous when he enters, nobody is nervous when he leaves. His ERA is technically a real statistic that goes on a real baseball card, and it is, generously, an afterthought. This is the equivalent of being called into a meeting specifically because everyone else already left, and somebody has to take notes nobody will ever read. One half step up from mop-up duty, the long reliever's entire purpose in life is to eat innings nobody else wants to eat. The starter got hurt or got rocked or simply ran out of gas in the 3rd inning, and now somebody has to throw 4 innings of competent, forgettable baseball so the rest of the bullpen can rest. Long relievers are, by nature, starters who didn't quite make the rotation. Talented enough to go multiple innings, not quite trusted enough to do it from the first pitch of the game. It's the bullpen's version of being the backup quarterback who only plays in the 4th quarter of a blowout. You get real playing time. Nobody remembers a single throw. This is the most populous and most thankless job in professional sports. The middle reliever pitches the 5th, 6th, sometimes the 7th inning of a game that's still technically winnable, which means every single pitch he throws actually matters, and absolutely none of the credit will ever find its way to him. If he gives up a run, the broadcast calls it a costly mistake. If he gets 3 outs clean, the broadcast doesn't mention him again until the highlight package 3 hours later, and even then only by accident, blurred in the background of someone else's home run trot. There are guys who have pitched 1,000 professional innings in this role and have a higher recognizability rating among their own teammates' dogs than among the general public. Once upon a time, a team could carry a pitcher whose entire skill set was gets one specific left-handed hitter out, then immediately leaves. Rule changes have mostly killed this exact job. Pitchers now have to face a minimum of 3 batters, but the spirit survives in any reliever brought in purely to exploit a single matchup before getting yanked the second that matchup ends. It is the single most specialized job description in the sport. You are summoned, like a fire extinguisher, for one specific category of emergency and removed the moment that emergency has technically passed, regardless of how the rest of the situation is going. Imagine being hired exclusively to answer one type of email, and the second a different type of email shows up, someone walks over and physically removes your laptop. The 8th inning belongs to the setup man, and the 8th inning is where careers are quietly made or quietly ended. He is good enough that the manager trusts him with a lead in a tight game, but not quite trusted enough, yet or ever, to get the very last 3 outs. The setup man's entire emotional existence is built around handing a clean lead to somebody more famous than him. Do the job well for 5 straight years, and the most enthusiastic headline you'll ever generate is "Reliable Bridge to the 9th." Blow it once in October, and they will play the clip at your retirement ceremony. It is, structurally, the bridesmaid of professional baseball jobs, essential to the wedding actually happening and somehow still not the one anyone takes a photo of. Now we're talking pressure. The closer's entire job is built on the cruelest possible asymmetry in professional sports. Succeed, and you did exactly what was expected of you, a shrug disguised as a save. Fail, even once in front of 40,000 people and a primetime broadcast, and you are the headline on every sports show in the country by sunrise. He enters to his own personalized walk-up song, usually something loud and slightly threatening, and proceeds to either end the game or end his own week. The role exists entirely inside the ninth inning, which means a closer's entire professional reputation is built on outcomes from roughly 60 pitches a week. There are very good, very famous, very wealthy men who still cannot fully relax during the seventh inning stretch of a one-run game because they know exactly what's coming for them in 20 minutes. This is the bullpen equivalent of being the only person in the office who knows the Wi-Fi password right before a client presentation. If it works, nobody mentions you. If it doesn't, you're the whole story. The swingman is the pitching staff's utility knife, capable of starting a game on Tuesday and relieving on Friday, depending entirely on what injury, slump, or scheduling headache happened over the weekend. It is, on paper, a flattering kind of versatility. In practice, it means you never quite get a routine, a rhythm, or a clear sense of which version of your job you'll be doing this week. You prepare like a starter and get told Thursday morning you're pitching the seventh inning tonight instead. It's the professional sports version of being told you're salaried specifically so nobody has to define your job description too precisely. Sometimes a team needs exactly one extra start. A doubleheader, an injury, a six-man rotation experiment that lasted exactly 6 days, and they call up a guy from the minors who may have found out about this assignment less than 24 hours in advance. The spot starter gets a single night to make an entire impression on a coaching staff that, statistically, will forget his name by September if he doesn't. It's the baseball equivalent of being asked to give the big presentation because the regular guy has the flu, with zero prep time in front of an audience that's grading you on a curve you don't know exists. Every rotation has a 4 or a 5, a guy good enough to start 30 games a year in the majors, which is itself a genuine, rare professional accomplishment, but not good enough to be the guy the team builds its playoff schedule around. He eats roughly 170 innings a year with quiet, unglamorous competence. He is, in the truest sense, replacement level in the most literal definition of the term, and also somehow making several $1 million a year doing it, which is its own small, strange American miracle. Nobody requests his bobblehead night. Everybody is extremely happy he's on the team in May, when somebody has to start a game and the actual stars need a rest. Every few years, some analytically minded front office decides the entire concept of a starter is outdated and invents a pitcher whose entire job is to throw one single inning at the very top of the game, then hand it off to somebody else for the remaining 8. The opener faces the other team's best hitters exactly once while they're still cold, then walks off to a standing ovation he'll never fully understand the size of because most of the crowd assumed he was just the starter having a short night. It is a job title that did not exist 20 years ago, invented specifically to exploit a loophole in batting order logic, and it has the strange distinction of being simultaneously a brand new invention and instantly one of the more thankless jobs on the entire roster. You get the responsibility of a starter and the shelf life of a long reliever. Somewhere, a front office analyst is extremely proud of this arrangement. The opener himself has feelings about it that are rarely included in the press release. And then there's the ace, the pitcher a franchise builds its entire identity around, who starts opening day, who starts game 1 of the playoffs, who gets the kind of contract that comes with its own press conference and its own citywide sigh of relief. The ace doesn't just need to get outs, he needs to be a small economic event every 5th day, a reason ticket sales spike specifically for his turn in the rotation. He throws roughly 200 innings a year under a level of scrutiny that the middle reliever 3 lockers down will never experience in his entire career, and every single one of those innings is contractually, emotionally, and financially load-bearing for an entire organization. If he's brilliant, he's a legend. If he's merely very good, somebody writes a column asking what's wrong with him. There is no quiet version of being an ace. The job comes preloaded with an audience, and the audience never fully looks away. I will say this, somewhere between rec league third base and a major league mound is a gap so enormous that comparing the two is basically comparing a paper airplane to a 787. But the hierarchy itself, the idea that there's a guy who only shows up for blowouts and a guy 3 lockers down who only shows up for the literal last 3 outs of a championship, is, frankly, one of the most quietly fascinating org charts in professional sports. Each of these 11 jobs comes with its own contract, its own walk-up song or complete absence of one, and its own very specific flavor of 2 a.m. anxiety. The mop-up man sleeps fine. The closer does not. Somewhere on every roster in the league, there's a Tuesday night mop-up man and a future Hall of Famer sharing the same clubhouse, the same spread of sunflower seeds, and exactly none of the same pressure. And somehow, every single one of them is essential to the same final score.